I'm here to oppose the cell phone towers for a couple of different reasons. First of all, I don't believe we've done enough research to understand the health ramifications. And the one point I want to make to you is you are not making a decision to affect the people in this room tonight. You're making a decision that affects our grandchildren and our great-great-grandchildren. There's a huge amount of knowledge about radiomagnetic frequencies. In fact, you cannot even use your microwave without guarding, and you can't use your cell phone on an airplane because it affects the airplane's operation. I can only imagine what it's going to be like to be surrounded by this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I would appreciate you taking into consideration the long-term effects. There was a Spanish philosopher who said that if we do not learn from the history, we will be doomed or condemned to repeat our mistakes. There have been many technologies that have been brought to us based on the profit structure of large corporations and their need to make money that have turned out to cost us billions of dollars, such as asbestos, cigarettes, and many other technologies that have not had the proper research. If we would take the money we spend on healthcare for asbestos and cigarette smoking today, we could take care of all of our veterans the way they deserve to be taken care of. My concern is 20 years from now, the decisions you will make will affect the citizens of Simi Valley's great-great-grandchildren. And I'm asking you to take that in consideration. There's a huge number of people here that can give you statistics and all the technical data in the world, but I'm speaking to you as a human being. I want to protect our world for our children. And I bring to you something that you yourselves have put on the website as your mission statement, and that is to provide a safe and healthy living environment for the citizens of Simi Valley. And I feel if you vote for these micro cell towers, that you will be letting us down in that statement, and you will not be performing your due diligence. This is way too early in this technology to put it out in the thousands of cell sites they have. The other aspect of this is when you allow one company to put it on a pole, there's going to be 3 or 4 other cellular companies that want the same coverage. We're not talking about one cell site on a pole. We're talking about 3, 4, 5, or 6. Not to mention security of the internet is not good, as well as the health aspects of it. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for all you do for the city of Simi Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Susan Weininger, and I am speaking about the cellular transmitters being put in residential neighborhoods. Under California Government Code Section 65858, a city may adopt an interim ordinance to temporarily prohibit certain land uses, including particular types of businesses in this community. It's called a moratorium ordinance. You can legally write a moratorium ordinance. This ordinance would be a local law that takes immediate effect to temporarily prohibit a particular land use so that the city can have time to study the issue. Several California municipalities have enacted moratorium ordinances to temporarily stop a variety of land uses that were questionable. It's legal, and it's a great temporary solution to our problem. It's a wonderful idea because it buys time. And time is crucial since a lot of change may happen in the coming months. Perhaps Congress will be successful with H.R. 530 in the Energy and Commerce Committee, which will, if successful, mean that certain actions by the FCC will have no force or effect, like this one. A city can adopt a moratorium ordinance without following the typical procedures that it would usually need to amend its municipal code, and it can be passed without advance notice to the public. It can be effective immediately. Please talk about putting this type of ordinance into effect. 2 weeks ago in Brussels, the plan to provide 5G wireless transmitters was halted, with the Environment Minister, Celine Vermalt, saying, and I'm quoting, "The people of Brussels are not guinea pigs whose health I can sell at a profit. We cannot leave anything to doubt." Belgium doesn't have the FCC, but it's clear what their priorities are. They care about the welfare of their citizens, and this is not the case in the U.S., it seems, and so far in Simi Valley. If you don't take action, FCC standards will be set, and they're going to be imposed on everyone unless something changes. Everything may change in the coming months in regard to the 5G transmitters in residential neighborhoods, and you have the ability to help your citizens. Please protect everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last time we were here, there was a representative from the 5G, and he brought his daughter with him, and he had a story that now with 5G, she could put on goggles and travel the Great Wall of China. And it was a heart-rending story. It almost brought a tear to my eye. And I was thinking that, gee, I'd like my grandchildren to also have that experience as well. And the problem is while they're looking at the Great Wall of China, the 5G is destroying their immune system. And being they are children, they have a thinner skull than we do, and it's probably also toasting their brain. And I was thinking that, you know, I don't blame the city of Simi in a way, because it's a giant legal battle to fight the phone company. But there's two sides of that story, and I think that hypothetically, if all the thousands of people in Simi Valley that didn't want or don't want the 5G were to contribute $100 or maybe even $50 and hire a high-powered lawyer or a team of high-powered lawyers and do battle with the phone company and or the city of Simi. And that would be a David and Goliath type of scenario. And I think the televisions, the radio, the newspapers would have a field day with something like that. And the publicity to the phone companies would be so horrendous that that kind of bad press might dissuade them from what they've been doing or what they plan on doing. And they may be deciding it's too much of a battle to fight with Simi, and we'll forget about destroying Simi. We'll just go to some place where there's a city where the people are not willing or haven't got the will to fight for their rights or their health. And that way they could just go there and kill the people in and out of the city. And in our city, instead of being a 5G city where the property values go down 20, 25%, we'd be a 5G free city where people would want to come here or flee their city for safety. And instead of the property value going down, the property value would probably double. Anyway, it's not so much the monetary, it's more health. I would rather be healthy, live a long, happy life, poor, than die young, rich. And I behoove the city of Simi politicians to not follow the steps of the idiots in our Sacramento who are destroying the state. Rise above that, do the right thing for the people of Simi, and fight for us. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm here today reading a testimony of someone who cannot be here themselves. So just think of me as Keo, I don't want to butcher his name, Ibrahimzadeh. So I am a retired police officer. As I mentioned, I'm also retired, and this was because of a stage 3 brain cancer, which was determined to be a work-related injury for police officers and firefighters because of our exposure to EMFs and RFs from our radio equipment while we were on duty. My life forever changed after this injury, and I had to leave the career that I loved because of it. Here is a link to my survivor story from which I have been helping out other brain cancer patients as of 2003. In it, I also mentioned the reason for the exposure to the EMFs and RFs from our radio equipment. I'll also give you those papers from that link. These cell towers in our residential neighborhoods would be more dangerous because they emit stronger EMFs and RFs, and we would be at risk daily to a daily exposure 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I want to tell you just briefly what he endured. It started out with a grand mal seizure while he was on duty, and he was rushed to his local ER. Prior to the seizure, he had had nosebleeds, numb arms, and a couple different things. He had just turned 30 at the time and was starting to advance his career as a police officer with almost 5 years on. He said he was so devastated to have been diagnosed with this brain tumor. He went through surgery, he went through radiation, and he went through a special kind of chemotherapy that was relatively new at the time. And sometime in October 2001, he went back to work. He convinced his doctor that he could. However, in 2004, he had to retire from the career that he loved because it became too difficult and demanding on his health. He tried to make it work for 3 more years because of the love and passion for his career. He also stated that the cancer was determined to be a work-related injury. Prolonged exposures to EMFs and RFs, the radio frequencies from our radio equipment, given the fact that he later found out that cell phones carry stronger EMFs and RFs. And I want to leave you also with the link so that you can read his entire story. And he gave his permission for us to read this today. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Chantal Allman-Palmer, and I represent a growing group of thousands of mothers here in Simi Valley with young and school-aged children who are concerned over the safety of 5G in our city. I apologize if I'm a bit repetitive. You can't hear very well back there. We are a grassroots community of savvy parents with an appreciation for cutting-edge technology, but we will not have it at the expense of our health. We are the first generation of parents facing the rapid change of technology amongst our most vulnerable and precious assets, our children. It is our duty and obligation as parents and you as trusted officials to look after their well-being. I live with metastatic cancer. It is my top priority to stay healthy and alive and to keep my children from unnecessary harm. Research has shown that EMF radiation exposure in children is distinctly harmful to their still developing systems. There is scientific documentation that shows lower fertility, negative neuropsychiatric effects, cellular DNA damage, and hormone balance damage as only some of the negative health implications from EMF exposure. In February 2019, U.S. Senator Blumenthal raised serious concern over the lack of any outside scientific investigation. We ask Council to help keep Simi Valley a safe city and a positive influence to other cities who are fighting to stop the swift emergence of 5G cell towers invading our cities. Council, unite with your citizens here today and stop the bullying upon our city by these telecom tyrants. The FCC rules of the Telecommunication Act of 1996 are outdated. The recent introduction of H.R. 530 in 2019 and through 2020 will limit the overreach of the FCC regulations. They will help us regulate these controls. We ask that you take guidance from other neighboring cities who have blocked 5G deployment, like Mill Valley, Burlingame, San Jose, and to push back on telecom's bullish instance and stand up for Simi Valley citizens. Furthermore, the proposed thousands of cell sites and antenna will clutter and pollute our beautiful city and parks. The aesthetic impact will be profound. There will be an increased potential for vandalism. We ask that you protect our city's beauty and the people in it. We look to you, our elected officials, to lead our city and be pioneers of change. Our health will not be sold, and it is time for change. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congresswoman Eshoo introduced House Bill H.R. 530 in January to empower local communities. As of today, the bill has 34 co-sponsors, including 15 from California, and the list is growing. This kind of legislation designed to better protect the public and the environment is on the increase. It results from expanding awareness and pushback against the FCC and telecom carriers. Some other examples: New Hampshire House Bill 52 would appoint a commission to study the environmental and health effects of 5G technology. Montana has a joint resolution of the state Senate and House urging Congress to amend the 1996 Telecommunications Act to account for health effects. Massachusetts has 8 EMF bills in the works. The Oregon State Legislature intends to reduce children's exposure with 3 new bills. In addition, with regard to harmful effects of radiation, we are beginning to see an understanding and application of the precautionary principle historically enjoyed in other countries, but not so far in the US. But the most important impact on public perception has been the action by a number of cities in Marin County in Northern California. The determined resistance to small cells and 5G in Marin has drawn attention from afar. People elsewhere want to understand the mindset, strategy, and achievement in Marin. As you know, we have had no public or angry demonstration about this issue. Rather, science, reason, respect, and cordiality have prevailed in exchanges like this one between residents and responsive civic leaders. What is Simi Valley's role? As you move forward with the Simi Valley Ordinance, you have the opportunity to add to this growing movement. You can do this by making your city's measure exemplary, using the good foundation of Calabasas, Burbank, Brentwood, and others, but adding particular strengths also to be found in other towns. The 1,500-foot separation in Petaluma, Mill Valley, and Fairfax, and the public notification and hearing process in San Anselmo.
Excuse me, ma'am, your time is up.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charlene Hagan, and I'm here to address the council. I'm against the 5G in residential areas. I called Medtronics because my husband has a pacemaker. My husband's brother has a defibrillator and a pacemaker. I asked the people there at Medtronics if this 5G in residential areas being so dense, if that would affect their devices. And what I was told is if they're near to the device, it could damage their devices. Also, he has a monitor in the bedroom 24/7, and if he feels a problem, it's like a telephone. You pick it up, you push the button, you put it on your device, and it transfers to Medtronics and your doctor what's going on with your heart. This device, when these are activated, will not work. Also, my granddaughter, not my granddaughter, my son's wife has had a liver transplant. And we honored someone here that works with the transplant people. Now, she's on medication that weakens her immune system so that she does not reject this liver transplant. She's our miracle girl. She went through so much, and these microwaves could be devastating to her health. Also, people with weakened immune systems that have certain diseases or on chemotherapy, they will be affected. And I'm here just to ask that you consider all these facts and the health of our community. And I feel like artificial intelligence does not have what human intelligence has, and that's common sense. And for me, And for me, common sense says don't put these towers in our residential area. Please protect our community, and I respect you listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
They found out I had some background in aviation. They wanted to make me a helicopter pilot. I figured I'd just sign my death warrant. I'm done. So anyway, after losing 80% of my unit in Vietnam, we were spraying Agent Orange there, and they all told us it was safe. We had a guy come on our base, take a glass of it, he swallowed it. He said, "You got no worries. Everything's good. It's safe." I don't need a mask? No, you don't need anything. So we treated this like a glass of water. 45 years later, I'm treating, when I went into USC, my doctor, Dr. Colcutt, said, "Wayne, I'm going to be honest with you." He said, "You've had more cancer than anyone ever walking through my front door. You are a walking miracle." And I'll be 70 this 45 years ago, we never knew that Agent Orange was dangerous. No more than you know these 5G towers you're putting up that's going to affect everybody.
Good evening. I'd like to share with the City Council a cautionary case study that could predict what will happen in Simi Valley and other communities. It's one of many case studies demonstrating where federal regulators got it wrong. Last August, a U.S. jury awarded Dwayne Johnson $289 million in damages, agreeing that Monsanto's Roundup weed killer was a contributing cause of his cancer. In March of this year, another U.S. jury awarded Edwin Hardeman $80 million in damages, agreeing that Roundup was a substantial factor in causing his cancer. During the trial, attorneys demonstrated Monsanto placed an unsafe product on the market, manipulated the science, manipulated public opinion, and consistently misled people into believing Roundup is safe. They additionally successfully argued that Monsanto had bullied researchers to suppress negative studies about the weed killer. Part of the lawsuit presented evidence that despite the World Health Organization declaring in 2015 that glyphosate, which is the main active ingredient in Roundup, was a probable carcinogen, Monsanto ghostwrote part of the EPA's conclusion that glyphosate was safe, demonstrating how corporations have great influence over the federal agencies. Just last month, Los Angeles County issued a moratorium banning the use of Roundup in public areas, clearly for liability reasons. Similar to the case of Monsanto's Roundup, there is a lot of independent, peer-reviewed research concluding that radio and microwave radiation is damaging to the human body, contributing to serious health issues like cancer. This City Council has been provided much documentation and multiple links to independent peer-reviewed research demonstrating the dangers of putting 5G wireless cell sites throughout the community in close proximity to residents' homes. It would be a tragedy to see a Simi Valley's family's child develop cancer, and health experts conclude that the microwave radiation from a 5G cell site installed on the light pole located right outside her home was a contributing factor. Industry engineers estimate each wireless provider will need 60 cell sites per square mile. The total number of sites in Simi Valley therefore would be 4 providers times 41 square miles times 60 cell sites per square mile, totaling 9,840 cell sites. Who could have ever imagined this? The first responsibility of this City Council is to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, specifically the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. By allowing 5G to be forced down the throats of people who don't want it or are unaware of it, after you've been educated on the damaging health effects of near-field microwave radiation, is an invitation to multi-million-dollar lawsuits against the city. I hope this City Council does its due diligence and pass a new aesthetic ordinance to stop or slow down the proliferation of 5G.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
evening. I don't think many people in this room understand that there's 5G satellites above us. 20,000 satellites for 5G will be launched, sending focused beams of intense microwave radiation over our entire Earth. 5G satellites are going to fill our skies. It's an environmental catastrophe from rockets being used to launch satellites, too. There's nowhere to hide. So why will we put these 5Gs on our land and our Earth right in front of us? I have a solution. What about fiber optics? The wireless carriers are hoarding the valuable fiber optic access lines to themselves so they can squeeze maximum profits out of us by offering only unregulated and data-capped wireless access. People prefer wired data plans that are not capped. We want direct wireline access to the shared fiber backbone. Here's some questions we like to ask the big wireless. Number one, from these planned so-called small cells, are you planning to offer a fixed wireless video and internet subscription to the homes in Ventura County to compete against wireline cable service? Will this be 4G, 5G, 4G plus 5G service? Number two, why won't telecoms give Ventura County residents direct wireline access to the shared fiber optic backbone that customers paid for decades ago by the $5 a month charges added to their landline telephone bills? Number three, the charges are still on the landline phone bills, but we never got fiber optic to the home as was promised. Have actual phone bills to prove it. Why is that? Where did all that money go? Number four, are the telecoms finally installing fiber optic cables from this decades-old shared fiber backbone to the base of utility and light poles in neighborhoods? Number five, or said another way, for the fiber optic cables being installed in neighborhoods to support the wireless facilities, where do they exactly connect to the shared fiber optic backbone? Number six, who owns and maintains the shared fiber optic backbones to which you are connecting? Does our state public telecommunications utility company and carrier of last resort, such as AT&T California, own and maintain this fiber optic backbone? If not, who does, and to which company do you pay the connection access fees to use the shared fiber optic backbone? Number seven, is this a non-discriminatory access fee, for example, the same price offered to any other wireline or wireless company? Number eight, lastly, everyone wants fiber optic to the home as an alternative to internet service from their cable TV provider because fiber optic to the home is fast, secure, and requires virtually no additional industrial equipment installed in neighborhoods, in contrast to the 28 to 35-foot cubic feet or more of equipment per pole to support 4 and 5G wireless service. So why can't the telecoms just meet actual stated customer demand by investing the small marginal cost to extend the fiber from the poles directly to homes? That way, each house has the option to use or not use wireless service in their own homes via Wi-Fi without having to endure strong wireless signals throughout the outdoor areas of our neighborhoods. Why can't we do that and call it a day that, like Verizon customers do on the East Coast, we can do the same in California?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. So thank you, first of all, for taking time to hear me, listen to me, and most importantly, hear me. I want to talk to you about the 5G paradox. There's a lot of things I could talk about in this issue, but I'm going to try to maintain it to the comments I've written down. First of all, how do we legally stop the unconstitutional action by the FCC? A Sebastopol-style moratorium would do. These are the FCC orders 18-111 in August and 18-133 in September. First, the FCC order in August attempts to get the FCC into intrastate matters, the right of the localities to pass moratoriums to give them time to pass local regulations that will protect their residents. This order essentially says the moratoriums will not stop shot clocks. Is this legal? The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals will decide that. Secondly, 18-133 essentially says the wireless industry can roll over local governments in an attempt to preempt local governments without having the authority or jurisdiction to do so. Both orders are being challenged in the court as part of the same suit in the Ninth Circuit Court. A moratorium for 2 years is as good as a stay while in the Ninth Circuit Court. The FCC has no justification over interstate matters such as moratoriums. A moratorium will allow the thoughtful discussion and deliberation of processes for the wireless telecommunication facilities. Regulations without facing the pressure of having to process applications under FCC rules that will not stand in the end. The moratorium would freeze all local proximity microwave radiation antennas installations and give the council all the time it needs to do the final ordinances. And it is unnecessary to allow an unregulated and disorderly deployment of small cells. These wireless facilities represent an ever increasing and true threat to health, welfare, and safety of the community, and may be harmful for a variety of reasons. The moratorium, in essence, says we will not accept this insane unit until a final decision is made by the Ninth Circuit Court. There's a possibility the court will uphold the August order, at which time this state moratorium will be null and void. A local moratorium would or should work even after the April 15th deadline. Sebastopol has a 2-year moratorium and was implemented in October 2018, and Lanksberg is also considering a moratorium as well. Now, Mayor, I understand you're a former firefighter, correct?
That's correct.
All right, you understand that the firefighters were the only ones successful in having them removed from the fire stations because the firemen couldn't sleep, they couldn't...
I'm sorry, I got to...
Okay, well, let me just finish with one quick thought, and that's from the great communicator Ronald Reagan. He says, government is not the answer to the problem, government is the problem. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is Brad Austin. I've been a resident of Simi Valley for 30 years. I'd like to speak a little bit more what Randy, my citizen, actually spoke about in opposition to 7A. The FCC has jurisdiction only over interstate matters. The states have jurisdiction over intrastate matters. The federal government has no authority to cross over into small cell construction, as this is an intrastate matter. It only becomes intrastate when it is finally turned on and in operational mode. Because the FCC August order, which abandons the state moratorium, and September order has been combined into one lawsuit in the Ninth Circuit, FCC Order 18111 is really not a done deal. Please understand that the FCC wants to mess with our interstate authorities. This is an unconstitutional goal. The city has its own goals. There is nothing urgent about permitting unregulated and unconstitutional deployment of these small cells in the public rights of way. The city's duty is to protect its residents. Every city in Ventura County can write its own amicus brief to assist the lawsuit against 18111 and 18133. A common voice on this could save our communities. During this moratorium, we can be a non-small cell county. It is not necessary to have this untested technology shoved down our throats. This moratorium will give the cities time to learn more. This is a complex issue. Even though the rulings may go against us, we can hold this 2-year moratorium without allowing the invasion of these full power cell towers in residential zones. While the jury is out, let the rest experiment and endure the bleeding edge of the errors of this unnecessarily rushed installation. A moratorium is a better way to combat this injustice. It gives the local cities the ability to thumb their nose at the FCC. It tells them you cannot beat us up while the FCC order regarding moratoriums is being litigated. By putting small cell installations on ice while we're waiting for the outcome, it will allow appropriate time to review these issues. The enactment of appropriate regulations by the Planning Department and City Council cannot be accomplished without due deliberation, and it will take a significant length of time to work out the substance and details of such requirements. Right now, the FCC is 0-1 in lawsuits and may soon be 0-3. Right now, the combined suit, the 2 orders, is in the process of being litigated. This could take 12 to 24 months. While this is in the courts, we can all calm down. The consensus of the cities is that we want local rule, and we don't want the FCC to tell us what to do. And we in Ventura County are most open to new technology, good technology, but we do not want it forced on us without our input and need to regulate these installations to meet our local needs. In the meantime, the staff does not have to wait. They have all the time to do the final ordinance while the moratorium is protecting us.
Thank you,
One
sir.
suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Judy Bruce, and the first thing I'd like to enter into public record is evidence that proves no significant gap in coverage. We provided a call test in about 4 areas in Simi Valley, and we have provided you a PDF in your packet, and also I emailed you all the YouTube of it. And we're going to be doing more sites around. But this proves, we did an AT&T phone and a Verizon, and so there's no significant gap in coverage. I'm also submitting for public record the moratorium adoption urgency ordinance adopting a moratorium. We are strongly suggesting, not suggesting, we need this moratorium pending further completion of the city's review of the impact and adopt appropriate regulations that will save us and protect us. I wanted to point out, I was going to show you a map. And also, could you bring, yeah, thank you. A map of area in Sebastopol, thank you, showing that a macro tower, homes within, if you can see that, with the 250 to 500 feet, these people, after 9 years, 5 of them died, and several to terrible illnesses. And our urgency ordinance that they voted on was 250 feet or less, and that is very dangerous. The closer you are to these towers, it's deadly. So, and then I wanted to point out that the home values, we've talked about this, but it's what you have, what you're going to end up is junkyard on a pole. And I just wanted to show you some examples of what happens when you allow equipment to be above ground. We don't even want these anywhere around us, but this is, you know, pretty much junkyard on a pole. So that's why our property values will go down. And we've talked about the Verizon CEO talking about how these towers are just so redundant and unnecessary, being 200 feet away, because he admitted, he busted the myth that what you do is you put the 5G 3,000 feet away and you just put it with the 4G and it's fine and it works, and it is not necessary to have it right next to our homes. I just had an interview today with KCETV, and they're here tonight as well, and we were walking over to the towers. Oh, could you give me the meter? I forgot to bring the meter. We were at the towers near our home, and I just pointed out to them that tower, those towers, let's see, why isn't it working? Huh.
That's for sure. Your
Okay.
time's up.
Okay. Anyway, it's too high. It's not necessary to have it that high. It's extremely dangerous. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Christina Van Duick, and I'm 16 years old, and I'm a junior in high school. And I'm here today to thank you for looking out for my generation and for the future generations to come. I value the safety of the present and the future, as most of us would in this room. Thank you for recognizing the major health risks and effects of 5G. I attended the last meeting concerning this issue, and there was a lot of talk about how there are no tests showing that 5G does cause health risks. But I'd like to ask one question. Where are the scientific studies and tests that show that 5G is safe? As a citizen of Simi Valley, it is concerning to see that there is no evidence to prove that 5G is safe. As a teenager, it is even more concerning that these toxic cell towers could be placed in the near proximity of my home and my neighborhood. How will this affect my generation? And how will this affect the future generations? I've lived in Simi Valley my whole life, and I love this city. I would greatly appreciate it if you would please consider amending the distance of these cell towers to be substantially further than only 250 feet from residential areas in order to provide more safety and preserve the future of Simi Valley. Again, thank you for caring for the welfare of our city and doing your best to preserve and protect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council and fellow citizens. My name is Rita Reamer, and I've lived here in Simi Valley for over 18 years now. I'm a wife and a mother of 2 young children. I'm here tonight to share with you why I oppose the 5G rollout. A few weeks ago, I heard about the 5G rollout and thought it would be great because I'd have faster internet. Where I currently live, the connection is spotty. I work from home, conducting the majority of my business from my cell phone and my laptop. I've always been aware of the health risks using these devices, but it has been my choice and at my liberty. Upon further reflection of how and who the 5G would negatively impact, I'm okay keeping my spotty connection and slower internet service. I have read and watched countless sources for and against 5G. I am by no means an expert. I'm not going to cite sources and data. I'm simply going to share what I believe to be true. 5G comes with a price. The price is our personal health, the natural beauty of our city, our property values, and our local economy. In talking with my neighbors and friends about 5G, I would get a few different responses. Some people had no idea what I was talking about. Others welcomed a faster internet connection. A few didn't want to hear about it at all. And one had the attitude of, oh well, we're already exposed, aren't we? After sharing what I had learned, many of them asked for more information and shared their questions and concerns about 5G. There is no scientific data supporting that 5G is safe. Why would we want to be the test case to see what the exposure will yield? I'm here to ask you to stop, block, or at the very least table 5G until we have more information on the long-term effects and damage it will cause. We elected you to lead and protect our community. We're counting on you to do this, even if it means you need to stand up to the federal government and the telecom companies. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. 2 weeks ago, I gave you 11 articles that substantiated the dangers of Wi-Fi, radioactive frequency radiation, and microwaves. And these were from researchers throughout the country, so you had those to read for 2 weeks. So you have ample data to show you the dangers. This little girl right here, if she goes to school in America, she's exposed to Wi-Fi, this little girl. But in France, she is not. In Israel, she is not. They ban Wi-Fi in her classroom, and she's not in Russia. I want to say to you today that we are not animals. The Nuremberg Code on Human Experimentation says that experiments with humans need to be voluntary. From the day one man held his first cell phone, he was an experimental figure. I know that you have powers that I can't imagine because I'm not in city government. I want to say I hope it doesn't happen to be that one of you has to get brain cancer or breast cancer or prostate cancer before you'll do something for us, because cancer is no respecter of persons. You could get it, your loved ones, any day, any time. You're using Wi-Fi all the time. So I'm asking you today to look inside your hearts, to know that God gave you the ability to make a difference in the lives of 126,000 people who turn to you to be human and to protect them. I spoke to some teenagers as I was passing out flyers the other day, and I said, hey, would you like to get involved? Would you like to protect your town? And when I did that, I thought, you know, this is my town. This is Simi. I've lived here 15 years, and I realized that I love the people of Simi Valley. Some of them are my friends, and even when they're strangers, I like them. I like coming home to see me. And I want to ask you, in the spirit of goodness, in the spirit of the fact that we don't know what will happen to us, really. We don't know. And don't ask yourself later, could my grandchild who got this now, whether it's autism or some other disease, could I maybe have stopped that back in 2019? Please take a stand for us. We need you to fight for us, and that's my request and wish for you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I want to thank you for patiently sitting here through all of this. I also want to thank you and apologize for speaking out of turn the last two weeks ago when we had this meeting. This is in reference to 5G. And I have some notes here, but a lot of what I had here was already said. And I just wanted to say this, that during that meeting, when Mr. Kramer, whom the City Council hired among several other City Councils, he backed you into a corner over several hours like a lion stalking his prey. We were all tired. We all wanted to go home. But we were fighting for what's important to us, to our families, to the future generations. And I understand that he was legally advising you on what the FCC ruling was and what you have jurisdiction over. But he narrowed it down so much that he backed you into a corner to where you thought you had no options at all. And you have options. You have to stop, we have to think, we have to get some space. You can do a moratorium. You can do dozens of things that other city councils have done across the state. You can MacGyver your way out of this, okay? You can. But you have to be creative about it. You have to sit down. Many people here are really afraid for the future. I am, because if my house drops $125,000, I'm going to be trapped upside down on my mortgage, and I won't be able to leave. I'll have to walk away. I have an 800 FICO score. What's that going to do to my future? So there are alternatives. We have fiber optics in the ground. We have other ways of doing this. We don't need to keep putting more EMF pollution into the air. I have a cell phone like most other people here, just like you do. I love it. It's fabulous. It connects me. It's great. I don't see the need for an Internet of Things that can tell my refrigerator can tell some marketer out in the world how much milk I drink, or when I wash my dishes, or when I leave my house, or how much heat is on in my house. I don't need that. And that goes against the Fourth Amendment, to be secure in our persons and our homes and our effects and our things. And I appreciate all you guys do. I really do. And I know this is a very difficult decision, but I would gladly pay you $250 or $1,000 or give you more money to fight a $250,000 lawsuit or whatever it's going to take to keep us safe. A $250,000 lawsuit is $2 per person per resident of Simi Valley. I would give you $1,000 to keep my son safe, to keep me safe, to keep my friends, keep everybody in this room safe. And I'm sure they would be willing to pay for that too. So please, please think about this. Think about the future. And it's not just the health, it's our liberty, it's our privacy, it's our property. Thank you.
What was that? What was that?
This is a representation of the size of the cap that's going to go on top of our light poles. And I have pictures of that for my house.
Okay. I just had to ask you.
Yeah. But it's a point.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, the next item on the agenda is 7A, second reading of ordinance number 1297, approving amendments to Simi Valley Municipal Code, Title 5, Chapter 35, wireless telecommunication facilities, and a determination that the action is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Ordinance number 1297, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley with amendments to Simi Valley Municipal Code Title 5, Chapter 35, wireless telecommunication facilities, and a determination that the action is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. And I do believe there is staff available here for any questions, but there is not a staff report.
Any questions of staff?
I think I wanted to ask about the moratorium. We had multiple people comment on that we can do a moratorium on this, but that was not part of our discussion. So our city attorney.
Yes, we looked at that when the ordinance was being drafted, and unfortunately, it's pretty clear from the FCC's third report and order that says very directly all local moratoria are prohibited. Now, that third report is now operative law. However, it is being challenged in the courts. So should that status change, of course, we could update the council on that. But as it is now, the moratoriums are prohibited by federal law.
I have a question. If in the future the council wants to look at moratorium, is that a possibility?
Well, as we're monitoring the legal changes, should that FCC order be overturned, and there is a chance that it will be, then the council could return to the potential of implementing a moratorium, provided the other findings are met, like health and safety, or you're trying to study something. The things that were mentioned by the public could then potentially become available again.
So this one is simply the second vote on what we've already established, and that was the urgency.
That is correct.
And there's nothing new to that. It's just an existing ordinance.
Your ordinance is already in effect, but the reason for the second reading is just in case there was a challenge to the emergency findings, which there has not been, but it's a belt and suspenders approach. So it's the same ordinance that is already in effect.
Mr. Mayor, I move adoption of ordinance number 1297.
I just had a question. I just wanted clarification from our city attorney about section 2 on page 2 regarding the CEQA Act. That is just stating that the ordinance amendment is not subject to CEQA, but every individual project that comes before the city, right, will still be subject to CEQA. Is that correct?
That is correct. So ordinances generally, and this is no exception, are generally exempt from CEQA because they by themselves don't have a quote-unquote physical effect on the environment. However, any application for a cell, small cell or large cell, has to pass through the CEQA process. Having said that, so that every single application, however, there are many exemptions that apply to cellular projects. So each project has to be evaluated under CEQA.
Okay, and they would still have to meet all of the aesthetics requirements that we set forth in this ordinance?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So we have a motion and looking for a second.
Actually, are we going to discuss this at all, or just motion and go forward after?
You can discuss it. It's just a matter of it's
done. Actually,
I got you. Urgency ordinance that we passed.
Could I maybe have just 30 seconds to say something about it?
Sure.
Okay, and the reason being, and I want to apologize, I was not here 2 weeks ago when you voted on this urgency ordinance, and I apologize. I came very late at the evening and heard the end and heard about the proceedings, but I just wanted to echo a few thoughts that as I've been thinking about this and understanding the concern of the citizens that was voiced tonight, and I know that it was voiced 2 weeks ago, but I just wanted to share that I would have concurred, I would have voted as well as you did 2 weeks ago, the same. But it was very interesting. I attended 2 weeks ago a luncheon for elected female representatives in Ventura County, and there was one of the elected officials there was from another city that had no ordinances in place, and she was complaining about these antennas all over her city and how it was popping up, and they've got to put something, they've got to come up with an ordinance so they can somehow stop it. And I was, I think Councilmember Kavanaugh and myself were there, and we were able to say, well, we're working on that. We've got something in place, and this is what we're doing because it is so important. And we were actually trying to guide them because they had nothing in place. But I just wanted to share, just quickly, just a couple sentences from correspondence that I think we maybe all received afterwards. But this wasn't expressed tonight. But I wanted to share this letter that a constituent said: "The ordinance you passed is a nuanced and thoughtful approach to holding back the FCC, and your intentions were well explained and as clear as they could be. The ordinance is intended to impede the deployment of these cell towers," and this particular person disagreed with our vote, but basically went on to say is that what we're trying to do is we are concerned about the health of citizens, and we want to do all that we can to be very thoughtful about going forward with what we have in place. And so I just wanted to go on the record. In fact, even as I was reading the ordinance again this time about, it states very specifically, and I quote from the ordinance, the city desires to adopt wireless facility regulations which comply with applicable federal and state law while preserving local control to the extent feasible. And it goes on to say the purpose intent is to encourage the location of antennas in non-residential areas. It's very specific that the desire is that it's to meet aesthetic requirements, but truly to do all that we can to protect our citizens. And I'm encouraged that we will be watching this closely, I'm sure, at the federal level, and be taking actions if needs be, if there are legal cases, because I just want to iterate that we certainly have our citizens' interests at heart and desire a safe community with some of the, but certainly with ability to communicate wirelessly as well. But we want safety is paramount. So I just wanted to add my voice to what was said 2 weeks ago. So that was it.
Yeah,
now you can vote.
I appreciate your comments, and I think going forward we are in a position where we can continue to learn and address this issue. And what we have here tonight, this ordinance is strictly on the urgency ordinance and the aesthetic value, which in some people's opinion will slow down the proliferation of these towers.
And may I comment? I also just wanted to remind the people, or our citizens, that we are part of that legal proceeding against the FCC, the California League of Cities. They are representing us, Simi Valley, and every one of you out there. And again, somebody else mentioned, this is a federal issue. It's the FCC. So we're doing everything we can at the city limit to protect you. But we also need to work with the federal limit, and it is our Congresswomen Hill and Brownlee. They're the ones representing us, and they're, I'm sure, willing to help us if we go to them. But I think, according to what I'm hearing, the legal proceedings seem to be going favorably in our way. We don't know for sure, but we need to keep an eye on that. But this ordinance has nothing to do with saying we want them or we don't want them. This ordinance says if we have to have them, we want some control.
Yeah, very good point. It's not we don't have a choice currently if we're going to have them or we're not. It's simply the ability to control how the look of the units.
And just, Councilmember, it's too early to say if it's favorable, but it's definitely being litigated strongly on behalf of the city. So we have good representation at the league on those issues.
So we heard tonight that it's going to the Ninth Circuit, correct?
I'm not prepared to give a case update of where it's at because there are various circuits going on. So, you know, I'm not prepared to say for sure.
Do you have any timeline whatsoever? A guesstimate? That's a pretty dangerous guesstimate. But
I would have to get back to you on that to give you a realistic.
Are you an attorney?
I'd just like to mention, there was a picture that was shown earlier by one of the speakers of three big boxes with wires sticking out. Stratus Paris, our staff who presented 2 weeks ago, specifically showed a picture that looked just like that and said this is not going to be allowed due to the aesthetic standards that our staff has put forth. So that you're not going to see that in Simi Valley because it's not allowed. It doesn't meet the aesthetic standards. So anything that looks like that, it's not going to be allowed. That's why our staff took so much time and care to make sure that we made it within the legal limits that we could. So you won't see big boxes with ugly wires sticking out. That's not going to be approved. That will not be approved according to the ordinance which we are passing, just so you know.
Yeah, and along with that, Councilmember Luevanos, several months ago, maybe even a year ago, this council, made up of different folks, but we addressed this issue and of the appearance, and we actually, I think, put a stop to one of the companies that was going to put some up that certainly would not look good. It would do nothing to help the aesthetic value of the city. And so we were able to stop it back then, and today we're working on it again. And I think we will remain diligent in doing that. Thank you. So we have a motion. Need a second?
Second.
Any other comments? Judge? We'll call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously.